Welcome to the Gamecast. I'm your host, Mark from Pix in Motion, joined by Greg from Pixel Play Cafe. We're here for podcast number 5. And today we're going to take things a little bit of a different route. We're going to go classic PC gaming. Except instead of talking more about the games, we're going to talk about the PCs that we used, built, why we built them, how we built them, all that fun stuff. Greg's going to start. However, my history with building PCs goes back a bit farther than his. So, Greg, what got you into building computers to begin with?
Actually, it started off with my mom bought our first family computer. It was a Gateway 2000 computer.
Woo, I remember those.
Yeah, Pentium 2 that ran at 266 megahertz.
Oh, when I was screaming.
It had just built-in graphics, so no graphics card. And I don't remember how much RAM it had. I want to say it had 64, which I later upgraded to 128
megabytes for those people.
Yeah, for those people watching that didn't know what came before gigabytes, which I'm sure there are some. And it was funny because it came with a DVD drive, which was a really novel thing at the time. Because this was probably, I don't know, 1996, 97, something like that. And of all the things it came with one game, and it was some like FMV golf game for the DVD drive. And I don't remember the name of it. I hope she still has it because I kind of want to snag it and see if I can get it running.
Oh my God. You probably hardly ever played it too.
I tried to play it a few times. It was so boring because it's golf, but
well,
I don't know.
I like golf. I don't mind watching it so much. The games are all right. Playing for real though is better because you can drink beer and smoke a stogie or something. But yeah, a lot of people think that watching flies bang would be a lot more fun.
Well, I got that. And I, of course, had to tinker with it as much as possible. I think I started just doing emulators at first.
Oh, yeah.
But then it was a friend of ours. He got a PC. His family got a PC around the same time. And he wanted it for Half-Life. He was really excited for it. It was a little ways out yet, though. So, like, I'd go to his house, and his computer was just moderately better. Like, I want to say he had, like, a Pentium 2, but it was 300 megahertz instead of 266. He had a video card in there. Well, I don't remember what it was. But, a video card was better than no video card.
Definitely.
And he would play an old game that EA had that was, I think it was free to play, called, was it Motor City Online, I think? And
it rings a bell.
And this was during the 56K days.
Oh.
And so he would do like these drag races that I swear were like 15 frames a second tops, maybe. And he got hooked on it. He just kept playing it, and it looked pretty decent, but there's a slideshow. And then, of course, Half-Life ended up coming out, and I saw him playing that. I didn't really get it at the time. I was just like, yeah, more shooters. We played too many of those on the 64 or whatever. And time would go on, and it'd be another friend of mine that went and showed me. Well, okay. So this other friend I met, he had just invested around the time I met him. He had just invested in his very first graphics card. And it was a GeForce 3, and he got it to play Max Payne, the first one. And it was lucky for him. It was bundled with the graphics card. So
That's pretty awesome. I mean,
yeah, it is an
back
Asus graphics card, which was a company nobody had heard of, at least as far as I knew at the time. Which is funny because now they're all over the place. But he got it, and he booted it up when I was over there, and I could not believe what I was seeing. I was like, wow, man, PC is where it's at. Like, this is crazy. And little did I know, like a year later, it'd come out on Xbox and almost looked the same, which was also crazy. But that's the same friend would, just like another year or two after that, we're in the mid-2000s now, would introduce me to a game known as Battlefield 2. And that's where my journey really began, because he had just built his own PC from scratch and with his GeForce 3 installed and all that. And he was showing me, he had just moved in, we were roommates for a while, and he was showing me this game and how you could be like all these different classes, or you could be the commander over the whole squad and send like supplies, like ammo drops, health drops, whatever, to different areas of the map. And I was just like, holy crap, this game is amazing. You could order airstrikes too, by the way, which was really cool.
and that was modern day combat, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's supposed to be.
It was the first one that was not during like World War II or whatever. And so that game alone told me like, okay, I got to build a PC. I got to be able to play this game, and it's not on console. It kind of was, as you learned the hard way. Not the same.
I found it at some thrift stores out here, and I'm like, shoo, I got to get that. That's awesome. And I played it. You know, it's not too good by any means, but it's like, okay. And then I found it also for PC, and I'm like, oh, this will be much better on there, and I can crank the graphics and mods and, you know, all that stuff. I plug it in, I get it working, and nope, not the same game at all. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. But it was really cool. Around this time, I got a Athon 64. It's a single-core processor. Dual-core wasn't quite there yet. It's pretty fast, Greg. If I remember right, the processor was about 3.2 gigahertz, which was really, really, really fast for the time. And it was a really good processor. And I got a GeForce 5 series. It was like a GeForce FX video card. And I can't remember if it's a 128 meg or 256 meg.
I believe the card. 5 series, the FX cards, the 5 series was, they were 128s until they came out with the revision, because the 5800 was kind of poopy.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they came out with the 5900 Ultra to replace the 58 that sucked balls, and decided to pump some more memory in there, and that was a fantastic card.
Me being a PC building noob, I ended up buying the 5200 or something, like the low end.
That was still better than a GeForce 3, though, I would think.
Yeah, it was, and that prompted my one friend to start planning his next build. But to be fair, I made it a goal of mine to build my first machine to be better than his current machine.
even if it was just a little bit better.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But still,
I ended up getting this thing built, and I had 8 gigs of RAM, which everybody's like, that's way too much. And no. I had 2 gigs on this build. I have to keep these straight. I built too many PCs. I had 2 gigs on this first build, and everybody told me it was way too much. which it might have been, but no.
Was it 32-bit version of XP?
Yes. Yep. XP.
Yeah,
And
so 4 gigs essentially would have been your limit. So you were halfway there.
yeah.
I don't know, for some games, especially in a 32-bit environment, 2 gigs is probably plenty.
Yeah. Well, I think I actually started with 1 gig, and I shortly after that bought another stick to make it 2. But what had happened was I didn't have that card for very long, and something happened with it, and I think I returned it for whatever reason. I can't remember what actually happened to it though.
It was a while ago.
But, yeah, it was. This was around 2005, and I ended up buying an ATI X800 because that was considered pretty high end, and cost a lot more too. But it was definitely worth it. It ran that game like perfectly until it didn't at all. Unfortunately, it didn't take long. It died pretty quick. I got a refund on it. I ended up buying a GeForce 7600 at that point, which, like, holy
Those
cow.
Decent cards. I mean, I know the 6000 series introduced a lot of new features, and then the 7000 was essentially, like speed bumps and efficiencies. It was a good series.
Well, I had an interesting ride with that series of cards too, because what I did, I got the 7600. It was pretty much a better card in most respects than the X800, but the first one I got ended up being a dud. It started up and everything, but I went to start up Sirius Sam 2 that it came with, and immediately noticed a bunch of graphical glitches and stuff. Luckily, the place I bought it from was like right across the street. So it was just a small town computer shop I got it from. So I just went over there and was like, hey, this is what's going on. I think something's wrong. And of course, they had me try to troubleshoot it and stuff. And they determined, yeah, it's a dud. Take this one. They gave me a new one. That one worked. It's fine. It was a fanless graphics card. How weird is
not good. I would have added some fans there.
No, it had like those what they call them at the time, like vapor pipes or something.
Oh, the heat pipes?
Yeah, it had the heat pipes going through it with a huge ass heat sink on the whole card.
Okay.
So I'm sure it was fine, but yeah, it was interesting they didn't have any fans. Even then, it was still like, wow, that's weird. But from that point on, I used that for a few years before I decided to build like a new machine that I wanted to run Crysis.
Oh.
How many people have done this? Try to make a PC that can run Crysis. What a fool's errand.
But yeah.
I tried, and I kind of succeeded because I did beat the whole game on this using this machine. So
now, how are the settings though?
Oh, well, I'll get to that. So this machine, this one I ended up upgrading to a dual core AMD Athlon X2. Again, running at like 3.2 gigahertz. And I upgraded to 8 gigs of DDR2 RAM from DDR1 before. So I was like quadrupling my RAM count and increasing the speed of it. And I ended up buying not one, but 2 GeForce 8600s.
Fantastic.
And put them in SLI. Because I was like, if this can't run Crysis reasonably, nothing can. And I was right. Mostly. It could run it. But let's say that last level was quite the chore. Just trying to see what was going on.
To be fair, even today, the systems that, you can play it fine and everything, and it's, quite taxing. It's because it's not efficient. When they came out with the CryEngine 3, I believe, for Crisis 2.
Mm-hmm.
They refined the engine so much that, that's why it was able to run, maybe not the greatest, but it was able to run on PS3 and Xbox 360 and still look incredibly gorgeous on PC. It's just because of efficiency.
Yeah. Well, it was a weird feeling because I bought this thing, or I built this thing, and
How much did you spend?
Probably about $800.
And you got
Not
two
really.
graphics cards for that?
I did. Yeah, they're $200 a piece.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so it was actually a pretty well done build as far as price goes and specs. And again, everybody's like, 8 gigs is insane. You'll never need 8 gigs. Yeah, who's laughing now?
But what's interesting is, like, even today, 8 gigs is like the norm, and it's been a long time. 8 gigs, it was like, for you back then, it was crazy. But if you think about it, today, the average computer, like let's say Best Buy or Walmart, they're still selling 8 gig units.
Well, they're selling less than that.
Well,
a lot less.
Yeah, see, there you go.
I know at the store I work at, we have most of our machines top out at 4. There's
that's terrible.
Ones that are 2.
Oh, that is so terrible.
I have some poor souls once in a while. They'll come in. Oh, I just want to do some photo editing with Photoshop, and I'm like,
not
better
here.
go with this i3 that has 4 gigs of RAM and add some RAM right away, because you're barely gonna scrape by with this thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I got this thing built, and I bought a few games alongside of it. So I had, I think I started off with BioShock.
That's a good game.
Command & Conquer 3.
Heck yeah.
What else did I get? I already had like Half-Life 2 and I think I had Doom 3 at the time.
I think probably tore apart Doom 3.
Yeah, I had Crisis, obviously. So I started off with BioShock because I had read that it was somewhat hard to run on a lot of machines. And I maxed out the settings right out of the gate, started playing. It's like silky smooth the whole way through, and no problems whatsoever. So at this point, I was like, this is great. This is going to run really good. Obviously, Command & Conquer ran fine. Half-Life ran super good.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else I had ran super good. Oblivion, that was the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Oblivion ran really well.
Okay.
And it ran so much better than the 360 version that my friend was convinced to replace his 360 version with the PC version and just do that. So then came the Crisis test. I installed it and I booted up, and the first level I was like, holy shit, this runs really smooth. And like, I swear it's probably between 40 and 60 frames per second. I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
That's not bad, actually.
Then you get to the part where the sun starts to come up. Everything just fell like a rock. And I had all the settings maxed out too, by the way. So yeah, of course it's not going to run great. But I went in and started tweaking settings, and eventually I got to a point where I could mostly play through the game. And it was okay. It was like console quality basically, because frame rate wasn't really locked in or anything, and settings certainly weren't maxed out. They're like medium high, which was still pretty good. And but no ultra setting. But then I got to the very last level. You're on the ship and there's a whole bunch of crap going on. It was a damn slideshow, but I was determined to just finish the damn thing. It was awful. Probably the worst experience I have ever endured on purpose in a game. I was just like, I can't stop. I have to finish this damn game. And I kept dying, and I was like, no, I'm doing this. And I did. I beat the damn game.
I've played
End
it.
of story.
I've played that game. I don't own it. I never had a computer to be able to run it, in all honesty. But there's reasons behind it. My computer days started in the 80s. When my dad was in college, he took a lot of like computer programming classes and other like technical type electronics and various things. Because I mean, he's a engineer and does a lot of electronics building. Like he builds his own type of computer systems that run machines and Arduinos and they're called PLCs, basically a computer that does one thing.
Mm.
So anyway, he bought a Packard Bell that had a Intel 486DX with like, I want to say it's probably like 4 megabytes of RAM or something, maybe 8.
Man, that thing must have been flying.
Well, it ran Windows 3.1 and he like I'm a kid at the time and I'm like so interested in playing it, and he embedded into my mind in the 80s that the Macintosh was shit. Don't buy it, don't use it, you use Windows, you always use Windows. In fact, today he's still the same way. It's kind of funny. So here I am learning how to use computers because of my dad. He taught me how to navigate through DOS, all the commands and everything to use DOS. And because I wanted to, buy games and stuff, but at the time it was still kind of a new thing to the family. Although my dad had an Intellivision, and that's what I had played a lot of. And then we got a Nintendo Entertainment System, and that was like the only thing I had for quite a while. And then we got the computer. So I jumped from the NES to DOS games. And the first major one that my dad actually bought was Wolfenstein 3D. And that was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And my dad, he was big into hacking the stuff. Like he bought this map printer. So he like was able to, with his dot matrix printer, was able to print all the maps for Wolfenstein that would show where all the bad guys were and where all the treasure was and the secret passageways and everything. It was actually pretty awesome. And then he found a level editor. I don't know if it was the official one that the id Software released. It may have been like an actual hack, but he started designing his own levels and like making me play it and seeing if I'd get scared, because like he'd put if you had Spirit Destiny, you could have the zombies, and it just kept going and going. It was pretty awesome back in the day. And then this is funny. We got America Online when it first came out. And so here we are. Before that, we would connect to the BBS. In the town we lived in, there was a guy that had a server, and he'd have all kinds of stuff on there, and you could browse it. That was basically what the internet was in the late 80s, was the BBS. Now, the internet did exist, but, it was for colleges mainly. But then America Online came out, and it was such a big deal back then. And it was how we could actually go on the internet, and that's when I discovered Duke Nukem 3D. And the demo, well, oh my God, it was so holy crap at the time, but the demo, because I never owned the full version for PC. We just downloaded the free shareware version. Mm-hmm. Well, it took 6 days to download because we only had at the time a 24K modem. It was so slow. But so we get that, we're still playing on the same machine, and it didn't really run very well. So my dad decided, all right, I'm going to upgrade. And he bought more RAM. He bought, I'm guessing, a video board. And then he took the crappy 486 out and basically swapped in with an AMD chip. It was like a 5x86. I don't remember the name, but it was AMD's equivalent, to, I suppose, the Pentium, but it wasn't as fast as the Pentium by any means. And so then, like, I was able to play Duke Nukem, and that was great. And then I saw another shareware game, and that's Rise of the Triad. And it was amazing because here it's free, and it came with basically 10 levels. I mean, it was like an entire chapter of the game. It was so incredible. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is like a full game. And I ended up, I love that game. Like, even today, that game's amazing. I ended up buying the full version, but I spent more money, and I bought it was Rise of the Triad Extreme or something like that. It came with like all the chapters. It came with 2 different level editors, one of which was actually the same one that the designers used. And then it came with like a bonus chapter that the designers had just, like, some of the original designers decided, hey, let's make a bonus chapter. So they did that. And then I started building my own levels, and I actually recreated my middle school that I went to in Rise of the Triad. It was awesome. And like where the teachers would be, I put various boss, characters, and like you'd go in there and you're killing them and stuff. It was kind of, today it wouldn't fly, but back in the 90s it was like really fun. But so then that computer just wasn't cutting it no more. Windows 95 ran on it, but not anything to go home about. And at the time, my dad had Windows 95 in floppy disk form. I swear to God, I think it was like 50 floppies. But then he bought, it's a brand that I don't think it's even around anymore, at least not here, a CTX. And we got it at Best Buy, and we got lucky. He bought their service plan, and he also had home insurance, and he had it covered under home insurance. And that was an AMD K6. I think it's like a 266 megahertz. It had I don't know how much RAM, probably like 64 or probably 32 or 64 megs, something like that. Whatever the average was, because it was an average machine, really. But we ended up having a lightning storm, and it fried the board or something. And he took it to Best Buy, and they're like, "Oh, we can't work on it. You overclocked." And I didn't know what the heck overclocking was at the time. And my dad said, I didn't. We had a storm. So then we took it to the local PC shop downtown, which I think might be where you bought your stuff, actually. And the guy, no? Well,
no, mine was in Lexington.
Oh, okay. Well, the guy, he's like, oh, that must be from the lightning storm. So he said, all right, I can fix it. So what my dad did, this is kind of crazy. Because he had the service plan through Best Buy, he was able to get them to give him a new machine, or at least to fix it. So they fixed it. But because the computer repair shop, they said, yeah, this is lightning storm. Well, what happened was, Best Buy originally said no. You did this, we're not covering it. So my dad filed insurance claim, and they paid to replace it, and we bought it through the PC shop downtown. And then like 2 weeks later, after my dad already got it, then Best Buy said, all right, we'll repair it. We reviewed everything, we'll repair it. And it ended up, basically, he got it fixed. Now, I ended up inheriting that one. And so I bought a graphics card for it, and nothing special. It's like a Rage 128. I think it had 16 megabytes of RAM on it. But I was able to play various games. I had the Half-Life. It was technically a demo, but it was like it's like the first chapter. They had a name for it. Can't really remember, but it wasn't the whole game. That was awesome at the time, and it kind of sparked me to really want to build my own PC, and that's when I decided, okay, I'm building my own, and I don't remember how much I spent. It might have been about $800 or something. But I built a K63, AMD K63, 450 megahertz. I maxed out the RAM the motherboard could take. I think it was like 256 megs or something at the time. That's so sad. Maybe 512, but it was a what do they call it? A tie-in or tie-in? I don't know that. They usually do server boards, but so I bought their motherboard, and I had my Rage 128 card, which was garbage at the time. Decided, okay, I need to upgrade, and I bought the brand new Radeon 64 meg card. It was the very first Radeon card, and that thing was just unbelievable. It was like such a beast, at the time.
You said 64 meg was...
Yeah, it's the most they had at the time.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I think it was a DDR as well. The memory was on there.
Probably.
That lasted me for a while. And then I don't remember which game it was exactly. But I ended up basically rebuilding my computer from the ground up. And then I went, here's the thing. I used to read Maximum PC magazine. And one of the issues was reviewing, AMD had just come out with the new Athlon, and it was the Thunderbird core. And what they were reviewing, they had 3 different machines. They had Alienware, Falcon Northwest, and then another one I don't remember. But they all used the brand new 1.33 gigahertz chip. And I'm like, that's what I'm going to get. And then when I went to go buy it, I saw they had a 1.4. I'm like, fuck yes. So I bought that. And the motherboard supported 4 gigs of RAM. At the time, I think the Alienware had 1 gig. So I'm like, well, I'll go with 2. So I went with 2. I bought a 21-inch monitor, which ended up not being very good because it was designed for CAD, and you could only use it on 1 resolution with 1 frequency, and some games wouldn't work. I mean, it was a nightmare, but it was actually quite incredible when you could get it to work, Yeah. The hard drive at the time was an 80 gig, and that was like, holy shit, this is huge. I spent a lot of money. I worked my ass off over the summer to earn all that.
Back then, games were a lot smaller.
That's true, yeah. But the Radeon card, I had that machine for quite a while, and the Radeon card eventually it wasn't cutting it. And I saw the GeForce 3 come by. I saw, then the GeForce 4 comes out, and I'm like, I'm getting one. And Maximum PC's review, of the, was it the 4800, was like, it was pretty damn big, and I ended up going to next level down, which was the 4600, but I overclocked a lot. I replaced the heat sinks. I put heat sinks on the RAM. It just, I actually then also learned how to flash the BIOS on the graphics card. So what I was doing is basically, I just dove right in. I overclocked it to 4800 speeds and then some, and then figured out where it was stable, flashed the BIOS. And I kept it that way for a long time. probably like a year and a half. But I got greedy because
Talking about the memory speed there.
memory and the core clock, everything.
How could you get the core clock that fast on a card that old though? I'm thinking.
Well, no. The GeForce card, I don't remember what the core clocks were, but I was able to get it the same speed as the 4800.
Okay.
And I could tell you I ended up pushing it farther and then it died. And if I wouldn't have glued on heat sinks to the RAM and did all that stuff, I could have RMA'd it because at the time, I do believe it was EVGA. They were relatively new at the time, but they had a basically anything goes warranty. However, gluing stuff on the board and that was a no-no, and it got rejected. But that's okay. I ended up buying something better. When I went away to college, I bought the 5900 Ultra. That 5800 series that you were talking about. I ended up getting the 5900 Ultra. That thing was a beast. Of course, when I got that, I upgraded my Athlon to the Athlon XP 1700 Plus, which was the fastest one that they had at the time.
You said there's GeForce what now?
GeForce 4 Titanium 4600 is the one I had.
Okay.
And then the 4800 at the time was their most powerful one that NVIDIA did.
Yeah, I brought up specs for that one. Want me to read off some of it?
Yeah.
So shows the default GPU clock speed at 300 megahertz.
Sounds about right.
So I'm thinking you maybe overclocked it to 450, not 4500.
No, the four.
No,
I'm at
the memory clock you could have did 45 probably, if you had a lot cooling, like you said, because it said the effective memory clock was 650 megahertz. So I could see, because it was like says 325, and then it said 650 megahertz effective. So it was probably like dual channel setup.
Yeah, with DDR, I think, maybe DDR2, but still double data rate. So
yeah, DDR shows here. So yeah.
So basically, with that, you take the effective speed and divide it by 2, and then that's your actual megahertz.
Yep.
But here's the thing: when I had that card and overclocked the crap out of it, I mean, I ringed out every bit of power that thing could give you. I was getting 4800 speeds, if not faster, as far as the model number goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I paid
I see what you mean.
Quite a bit less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
insane.
Here's the thing. So like then my next machine was Athlon. I built the Athlon XP 1700 Plus with the Enforce, I believe the Enforce 2 motherboard, and the 5900 Ultra. Now this was before the Athlon 64. That came a little bit after, I think, but that computer lasted me for quite a while. Except down in Orlando, Florida, where I was going to school. That's the lightning capital of the world, and I got screwed big time. We got hit with lightning, and my graphics card fried from it. I got lucky that nothing else on my machine did, and I again had EVGA, and I contacted them. I explained, hey, I'm a college student. I didn't do any overclocking this time because I didn't need to. The card was fast.
Yeah,
and
I just brought up specs for that one too. It was a good deal faster.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They said, okay, you can RMA it. And then a week later, I got a phone call. I was in class, and my phone's ringing. I'm like, who the heck is this? I answer it, out in the hallway. and they're like, hey, this is so-and-so. I'm with EVGA's RMA department, blah, blah, blah. We don't have that card. We're going to send you the new 5950 Ultra. Because I don't remember what happened, but, ATI was giving NVIDIA quite the nudge, we're going to kick your ass, like they still do, basically. And they said, fine, here you go. Here's a 5950 Ultra. It had more RAM on it. It was faster. And actually, I was looking up the other day. The card that they sent me is going for $600 and something on eBay because it was a reference design. And I'm like, crap, man. I gave that to a friend because I didn't need it anymore. I'm like, no, damn it.
Hey, I had a Voodoo 3, a 3DFX Voodoo 3 card.
Oh, man.
I think it was the last Voodoo they made, I think.
Oh, they did Voodoo 4 and 5, but 4 and 5 utilized the same GPU. It's just that Voodoo 4 was a single chip. Voodoo 5 was a dual chip.
Well, either way, I had one for a short time. Actually, I was probably using that somewhere in between my GeForce 5 and the 7 I got. That's probably the missing piece of that puzzle. But I ended up just giving it to my cousin so he could play, damn it, what is it? The first big MMO, EverQuest?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just so he could play that better, and popped it in his mom's computer and is like, wow, he can move around in multiple frames per second.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Now I can play.
And then at some point I ended up taking it back because he upgraded, but I don't remember what I did with it.
Well, the interesting thing, though, for me, because for all those years, I had console games. I had Dreamcast. I had traded the N64 in for a GameCube, and I had the Xbox. I had all three at the time. But I had my PC for the games that I knew really needed good graphics,
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to college, I was getting into a lot of graphics, 3D graphics, and various artistic intensive type applications. And a lot of people at the school said, you should get a Mac. And me, with my father's history, never get a Mac. Never, never, never. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I told my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm going to buy a Mac. And he's like, what? He's pissing out like, what are you, what happened? And then when I told him, yeah, I'm going to buy it, and I ended up spending $6,000
Oh, my word.
on the dual 2 gigahertz Power Mac G5 with a 23-inch cinema display, which was $2,000 by itself, and then the 17-inch display, which I think was like $700 or something. I got the fastest Power Mac they had at the time, and the graphics card was a piece of shit compared to the one in my PC, but it ran everything I needed to run for school. And the thing is, like, I got that machine in 2003, and it lasted until, I want to say, 2011. I used it. It was an everyday machine for my work for that long. Now, I had upgraded it. I put 8 gigs of RAM in there. I had the GeForce 6800 Ultra DDL, which had dual, what do they call it? Well, it was dual DVI, but it was like a dual head, or I can't remember what the hell. It's so you could run the 30-inch display, which it would allow me to actually use 2 of them, but at the time I had no need. But it was a pretty powerful card at the time. And for doing 3D work and stuff, that's all I needed, So then I pretty much switched to, consoles, really.
Probably wise. around that time anyway.
And now I have a Mac Pro from when's it from? 2009. It's a 4,1. However, it's modified. Running everything that I can. I've got dual quads in there right now. But I've got upgrade plans. I'm running a non-Apple card in there. It's the Radeon R9. Was it 290X? It's pretty decent card. It's got 4 gigs of RAM. It's not the greatest in the RAM department, but to be honest, I can edit 4K video with it, no problems. If it runs into any issues with however many layers I'm using, I got proxy footage I can do, but that's like I haven't built a computer since, so
Yeah.
I'm looking to do it when the new Ryzen's come out.
To bring my story up to where yours is at, I only did a few. I had that one main machine with those two 8600s and the dual core CPU for a while, but I ended up in like 2010. I upgraded to a 6-core AMD Phenom, the Phenom 2.
Yeah, those were decent. Yeah,
it was a slower clock speed, like 2.7 gigahertz instead of 3.2, but 6 cores, and then I started having issues with the 8600s. Like at first, one of them just died. So SLI was gone. And at this point, I couldn't really play games very well anyway, not new games. And then the second one, when I was in Texas just a few years ago, living in Texas for a while, it died. So I had like no graphics card. And I was just in a pinch, I ordered, I think it was actually, and what was it? It's like a 520, GeForce 520 or something. Like
something so you could use your computer.
Yeah, exactly. It's $20, $25, something like that. Just something to get it on, just so I could see things. And then after that was settled and I did some research, I ended up getting a GeForce 660 with 2 gigs of RAM, which was a huge upgrade from the 8600s I had.
Oh yeah,
huge upgrade. And that got me into PC gaming again, like a lot more than ever before.
Well, you have quite the library on Steam.
I do. Now I do, yeah. Well, then I ended up, and I don't remember what it was. Something triggered me made me want to get a better graphics card yet again, because I kept. At my time, it was just my girlfriend, but now my wife just kept telling her, I need to build a new machine. This thing's getting too dated. This processor is not good. Never really was. And I just had to build new, and I decided to try to build a small form PC. But before that, I went and bought a Radeon 390 with 8 gigs of RAM. And I went with that card for the 8 gigs of RAM because at the time, not many cards had that much.
Still not many have that.
Most do, really. Like 6 and 8. Unless you go budget.
I guess now they're even going more than that.
Yeah. But I got that because I had just got a 4K TV and I knew I was going to want to try to play some games in 4K and I'd need the RAM. And obviously it doesn't do 4K super well, but I can do like 1440p pretty well and stuff like that. So that's good, except in building a small form PC, you learn a few things about like heat, for example.
And that card is probably just like my 290X is probably really hot.
Yeah, it's a very hot card. And on top of that, the best option for CPU at the time was an AMD 860K. So I got that. It's a quad core, 3.7 gigahertz. Probably my least powerful processor in a long time. In some ways, it's
obviously the Intel chips were a little bit too pricey.
Well, I was looking for a certain price range, and there was the Intel option was their Pentium, but it was a dual core with 4 threads, and I wanted 4 actual threads since games at that point had started using 4 threads. So it was like, well, I'll just go with the AMD this time, and I don't know I don't know if I really regret it, because obviously I can make content and stuff just fine with this card and play games and all that, or this processor, I mean. But I am definitely planning a future.
Is that the one
build.
you're still?
Yeah, this is my current build. We are current now.
All right. Now
With 16 gigs of RAM, not 8.
About 2 years ago, I was at a thrift store down in Florida, and I found I think it's called a Dell Studio XP or Studio something or other. I looked it up online, and the original machine itself was like almost $3,000. Now, it has a Core i7-930, which is the fastest Core i7-900 series at the time. I know the 920s were like the sweet spot. A lot of people were getting those for overclocking. Of course, you wouldn't be doing that on a Dell anyways. But when I bought it, there was no RAM, no hard drives, no graphics card. It was just the CPU and the motherboard and then the Windows license. And I got lucky. I mean, I paid $60, and the case is pretty awesome. And I put some hard drives there. I put there's 9 gigs of RAM running in triple channel, which that's not a whole lot of RAM, but I was thinking, hey, maybe it's a spare machine, and running Windows 10. I believe it's just the standard edition. And then it only has one PCI Express slot, which bums me out. But at one point in time, I had purchased the first generation Mac Pro, bought it used, and the graphics card that came with it was like the 7000 series GeForce card, and it was garbage. I ended up putting 2 GeForce, was it the GTX 285s? They don't run in SLI because that doesn't work in the Mac, but it does use all the graphics power. For instance, Final Cut Pro will use every graphics core that the system has. You don't have to have any fancy dongles or whatever.
Yeah.
But I had those left over because I'm not using them, so I put one in that machine, and that's what I have. So that's kind of like it's just a spare machine running, Yeah. But I want to use that case to build a beast, because I really do like the design of the case.
It's funny how you come across a case that you love and you just want to keep using it. I have a similar thing with I'll send you a picture, but it's the Fractal Design Node 202.
Okay.
It's just a little bit bigger than an Xbox 360, and obviously very, very small for a PC. Got a picture here. But it's a gorgeous case, and it's so simple and clean, and there's nothing flashy about it, but it's for that reason that I love it so much, because I can literally just place it under my TV and not feel like it looks gaudy as hell.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet looking.
It's nice.
GTX.
Yeah, it's very nice, but a challenge to work with because of the size.
And the heat is the
that vent on top actually is right over top the CPU, so that's awesome. And
that definitely helps there, but they should give you one by the graphics card.
Well, there is one that right on the other side. The whole bottom is open. Okay. Right next to it, basically, that it's broken into chambers on the inside. Got 2 chambers. One side is strictly for the graphics card, and it has venting on the bottom of the case, but there's also enough room to put 2 fans in there if you want to help the intake for the cooling. My problem was my CPU, I believe, was getting too hot and throttling. So kind of a bummer.
I remember you were having those issues too.
Yeah, and as soon as I moved it into a bigger case, everything went away and it's fine now. But
now you got this big old honking case.
yeah,
And when space is limited, I can understand. Kind of the same way. My Mac Pro is huge, weighs about 80 pounds.
I just sent you another picture. This is about what it looks like with all the stuff in it, and I have the same cooler and RAM as in this picture.
Oh, okay.
It's really tight.
Yeah, it is small.
But it's a fun project to put together because it's so damn small. Just to show you size-wise next to a monitor. I don't know whose setup this is, but
oh, that looks pretty sweet.
it's damn small. Of course, mine's not white, but yeah, it's a nice case. I really like it, and that's going to be my build after I replace my main build with something more beefy.
Now, what is your current specs that you're thinking you're going to go with?
Well, definitely AMD again. Like, I thought about Intel a few times, but then Ryzen came out, and I can't justify the added cost.
No, me neither.
But I'm looking at 8-core, whatever Ryzen is the current one at the time. At least 16 gigs of RAM, unless prices come down enough that I can do 32. I would like 32, but I'm planning on replacing my hard drives with faster hard drives too, so gotta balance it out. Plus a new video card, somewhere around like the $350 mark for price. And it just depends on what's out at the time. I'm hoping within a year I'll be doing this, but
for me, now obviously it depends, but if I were to do it today, or I'm going to say actually next month, if I were to do it next month, I have 2 different builds that I would want to be doing essentially at the same time. I want to upgrade my Mac Pro. It's currently running, God, they're slow. It's like 2.26 gigahertz quad core Xeons. But I can get the 3.46 gigahertz Xeons in there that are 6 cores each. Mm-hmm. So that'll be 24 threads of rendering power. Yeah. And then my Radeon card, I would like to take that out and put that in the Dell that I have. And then get the new Radeon 7 that was announced. It's already been confirmed to work in Mac OS, and apparently should work just fine on my system. I know it's $700, but it's pretty pricey. I have 32 gigs of RAM already. However, I want to take that out and get faster RAM because the new chips will require faster RAM anyway. Mm-hmm. But I want to have 48 gigs. That way I can run it in triple channel. Because dual channel versus, it depends. Like with gaming, I don't think there's much of a difference between dual channel and triple. But with content creation, you're going to see a bit of a difference there. Mm-hmm. Now, I'd also like to get solid state drives because the mechanical drives I have are long in the tooth and slow as molasses. Definitely.
My approach with that is actually I want to get a bigger solid state drive for my OS and key programs, but then get one of those hybrid drives for my storage, like game storage and video.
I would see. That's the thing is, I haven't researched in a little while, but the last time I did, the hybrid drive stopped at 2 terabytes, and I don't know if they've made them any bigger since.
Well, that's what I want to get anyways, 2 terabyte, because you go higher than that with those things, they get expensive.
If I'm doing this for content creation, I've been looking. There's a 2 terabyte solid state drive I'd like to get. And then, honestly, I think they go up to 14 terabyte drives now for mechanical.
Well, just to clarify, I'm looking at this for, like, that drive would be for like games, like Steam games and stuff I'm running.
Okay.
Whereas I'd have another drive that's bigger, like 4 terabyte or something, that would hold all my videos
Okay.
in that. Like,
Well, because what I would be doing
stationary things.
is, see, my machine can hold 4 mechanical drives, unless I mod it, which I will. But I'll have, I think it's 14 terabyte drives. I want to get 3 of those and put it into a RAID. And then there is a RAID enclosure that holds 6 notebook-style drives, which can be solid state. They don't have to be very big. Probably get like a 512 gig or something. Get 6 of those. And then it goes right into the DVD drive enclosure. And granted, it's only, SATA 2, I think. But running in a RAID, it should be pretty fast. And that's basically my editing machine. If I'm going gaming PC, I want to go all out. I want to go to Threadripper. Probably whatever the newest one is at the time. I'm hoping the Navi is out by then.
Well, I have some fun thing we could probably talk about if you want to to kick this video to the end anyway.
Yeah.
Because apparently there's some specs that have leaked somewhat recently for the 3000 series of Ryzen processors.
Ooh.
And they are a doozy. Like, let's start with the bottom, the low tier. Now, I'm going to start with the 3 series because that's their low end, like, budget Ryzen chips. Doesn't sound like it when you look at these, when you see these specs, though. So it's going to be on a 14 nanometer process. Pretty good. That's fine. I kind of wish it would be 7, like, you know.
Well, it's budget, so I kind of understand.
But 6 cores and 12 threads.
Jesus.
With a Navi GPU core.
Holy shit, man.
Oh, yeah. And the highest wattage that any of these is apparently going to use, 65 watts.
So this is all rumor, well, supposed, you know.
It's a lot of details for, I mean, it is technically not confirmed, but it's a lot of details for not being real.
And that's a budget chip.
Yes, the 3300 with 6 cores, 12 threads at 3.2 gigahertz with a boost up to 4 gigahertz and a 50 watt TDP comes in at $99.
No shit, man.
Now they have a higher end, the next step up, Ryzen 5, the 3600 series of chips, 14 nanometer again, but 8 cores, 16 threads with a Navi chip for the APU version.
I think that's what you're going to shoot for.
Maybe. Depends, because it's showing that chip has the same price as the current Ryzen 5s. So all that stuff, 8-core, 16-thread, 3.6 base clock, 4.4 boost clock,
Damn.
65-watt TDP, 178.
I tell you what, man. AMD is, like, seriously back in the game.
Yeah. Now
Intel's screwed.
Now this is ridiculous. This Ryzen 7 makes me really want to get this. 14 nanometer again. But get this, 2 6-core dies, each with 12 threads. So this is literally 12 core, 24 thread.
That's like the Threadripper.
Yeah. And it starts off, the base clock starts off at 3.8 gigahertz, boosts up to 4.6.
Holy shit, man.
On a 95 watt TDP for $299.
Holy crap.
Woo. And
So-
there's even higher yet.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So and I think this might actually be replacing Threadripper because
Maybe,
this is
maybe that's not a Ryzen.
this is the Ryzen 9 I'm going to tell you about now.
Okay.
So, a new line. But these guys, Let me see. It doesn't actually tell me what nanometer. I assume 14, because all the other ones are. But we got 16 cores, 32 threads, with a base clock of 3.9 gigahertz, boost up to 4.7. This is on the low end, by the way, starting at 449. Now, you can get the higher end one that boosts up to 5.1.
Woo!
And then it starts at $500. Probably be worth the extra $50, really.
Yeah, I think so.
But like, holy shit, AMD is tearing it up.
Yeah. I'm wondering, though, if they are going to do a Threadripper still.
Yeah, well, that 3700 sounds super, 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 super appealing to me because, like, dude, that's just crazy. It's such a good deal.
Might as well start buying stock in AMD because I think this year they're going to be climbing the ladder quite a bit on their stock price.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Well, think of it, because you got the Radeon 7 coming out in February. I understand it's not like a new architecture, but it's that memory bandwidth, man.
Yeah.
For content creation, that is huge. I mean, I don't care if it's, we're as fast as the 2080, GeForce card. Okay. But the 2080 doesn't have a terabyte's worth of bandwidth. Was it a teraflop? Was it? Yeah, terabyte.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's a terabyte, 1 terabyte of bandwidth, which is unheard of. But they are using HBM2 memory, which is awesome. That's another reason. Like, I need a different card because mine's too slow. That thing's gonna be great. That's just gonna be great.
Yeah, I think that the only real downside to that Ryzen 7 is that it doesn't support ray tracing in any way, and I really want ray tracing.
You mean the Radeon 7? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the Navi, I think that will.
Yeah.
AMD already said they have something they're working on, and you know what? Being first doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best.
Yeah. Honestly, I think if somebody bought a Ryzen 7 today, or when it comes out in a month,
I mean a Radeon 7.
Radeon 7. I keep saying Ryzen, damn it. Yeah. But I think if somebody bought that, though, they'd be more than good for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, okay, look at how many games do we have now that can do ray tracing?
Well, at least two.
I know of Battlefield.
Battlefield, Rise, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Though, I mean, NVIDIA is not wrong.
No, they're not wrong.
I actually had a revelation the other day. I sent you that link for the guy that modded in full ray tracing into Quake 2.
I saw that. That's fantastic.
It's amazing, but it gave me a revelation that we could start seeing old games being implemented with ray tracing and just improving the look like immediately with like no real impact on performance because graphics cards have moved so far ahead.
Yeah, and here just to compare. When I believe it was Quake 4 came out, John Carmack actually with I don't know which company or college, but there was a supercomputer. He helped develop a ray tracing algorithm for Quake 3. And they ran it on this supercomputer, and it did like 30 frames per second with ray tracing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're using like a $4 million supercomputer.
Yeah.
And that was like around 2006, I want to say, maybe 2007, something like around that time frame. So you're talking 10, 11, 12 years later, graphics cards are finally able to, well, at least NVIDIA's, can do ray tracing. But to an extent. I mean, it's not 100%. It's more like hybrid ray tracing, because the developers have to choose what gets ray traced, and then the rest of it is rasterized.
There's a bit of correction. You can attempt to do full ray tracing on these cards, but performance has been really bad. That's why the RTX series has had such a rough go so far. But to what you were saying, it was when they started realizing that they had to select certain items to be ray traced. That's when performance started increasing like dramatically.
Yeah, because I know with Battlefield 5, I don't think they ray trace all the leaves and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't need it. But the reflections, I mean, we have screen space reflections and they look pretty decent. But then when you move the camera a certain way, and if the object gets blocked, then it either disappears or something weird might happen. Ray tracing's not going to do that, because if it's in the environment and it reflects, well, you're going to see it regardless where you're at. You know, like for instance, Digital Foundry showed you the truck. You know, here's reflections of the fire or whatever on the ground. I'm going to move behind a truck and see, you can still see it. You wouldn't see it with screen space.
No.
But I think that we're definitely there. You know, I think in 3 or 4 years, ray tracing will be the norm, regardless which vendor you have. And I hate to bring this up, but like probably, I'm going to say 5 years time, Apple, their computer line will be 100% their own components, and their graphics chips will be doing ray tracing as well. But that's not necessarily for gaming, though.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the dream for any of these companies, is to make all their own components so they don't have to pay anybody.
Yeah, they control the environments and all that crap. But unless you have anything else to chat about, I think this is going to be the end of this podcast. And you know, feel free to comment down below on any of your stories, or you know, how'd you get into PC gaming, building computers, whatever. It'd be interesting to, you know, read some of the comments. Maybe read them off on the next podcast or something. But
yeah, that might be fun.
And we're gonna get back to form next week. We're gonna talk about a kart racer that I don't think gets enough recognition. That would be Diddy Kong Racing on the N64. Me personally, I like it better than Mario Kart, but you know, at the same time, it's very similar too.
Yeah, in some ways, but we'll talk about that next time.
Yep, and thanks for watching and or listening, and you know, hit that like and subscribe button and share this and all that fun stuff. And I thank you very much. We will talk to you guys later.